I stand up for education and teachers.
For our local communities and for our local contractors.
I stand up for mi familia.
We can't pay police officers, we can't pay firemen unless we have everyone paying their fair share.
The theft of tax dollars could support almost 8,000 teachers.
Tax fraud is unfair to the communities and it's unfair to the local contractors that follow the rules.
So in the Carpenters fight against tax fraud in the construction industry, I think first it's important that we understand what the issue is.
Tax fraud is when an employer intentionally misclassifies an employee to avoid paying them the benefits or the taxes that are due.
There's mainly two forms of tax fraud.
First, I think there's a human element with labor trafficking and cash under the table.
So the process basically is a subcontractor will get a piece of the project, and then that contractor is not able to provide the workforce for that. They then turn to labor brokers, which labor brokers then are in charge of finding these workers. So typically they're trafficked up here, whether it be from Texas, in all parts of the United States and or Mexico, brought up here to perform these services for this contractor.
And once they get here, a lot of times they find out that they have to work off their debt. Sometimes they're aware of this debt, but it ends up being a lot higher than what they anticipated.
We know how bad human trafficking is. We oftentimes think about it in terms of sex trafficking and drugs, but the same thing occurs with labor, where particularly young people don't know what their rights are. They don't have anybody to turn to, and they get abused by unscrupulous people in our nation, and it's important that we crack down on it and stop it.
We were in Louisville, Kentucky on a blitz and witnessed this child who couldn't speak any English at all. Saw who he was with and went over to him, and the man could speak broken English and said he was from Mexico, readily admitted it. He openly spoke that he was not here legally. We asked about the kid. He said, "Oh, that's my son, he's 16. Safety was completely out the window. We took multiple pictures of that particular site, but it's just sad because, I mean, this kid did not look 16, couldn't speak any English, and his father also explained how he just brought him into the country not 2 weeks prior to. So was it even his father that we were talking to? You know, that's the scary part.
Not only is there cash under the table in labor trafficking, there's also 1099 worker misclassification.
I have had dealings with an actual job site visit where I revealed an employee or a carpenter working in the trade doing interior systems. And in conversation with this carpenter, you ask them exactly how they're getting paid. And at that time, they said it was a personal check through the contractor. Well, what they didn't realize is at the end of the year, this contractor then sent them a 1099. So throughout the entire duration of this project, which lasted about a year, they were just being paid with no deductions taken out. And then at the end of the year, this contractor slams this guy with taxes or the ability to pay those taxes via 1099. So that person was very surprised that they thought they were making a boatload of money when in fact they had several $1,000s worth of taxes to pay out.
My name's Kelsey Biggs. I was a 13-year subcontractor before I joined the local. I say subcontractor like this is because I didn't know that I was a subcontractor. The guy I worked for, he had a lot of things going for him. He had a big house, 2 or 3 vans, nice cars, things like that. And that's what I thought I was working towards. I thought I was making good money. Then after you start breaking it down, there were days where I was out, maybe 10, 12, maybe even 14 hours a day and still only made $30. I couldn't prove any kind of work history because of taxes. There was never any taxes taken out of my check, but you get the same speech. This is going to all benefit you in the end, this is all going to benefit you. Well, that's all fine and good until, like I said, you got to go buy a house, you go buy a car, you can get a credit card. you don't exist. I thought I was using the system when technically the subcontracting system was using me.
I think ultimately what's led to it is just the corporate greed. It's allowed corporations or larger construction companies to then just outsource their labor and cut the labor costs on projects, and thus putting more money into their pockets.
It's been done like this for years and years, and they think it's the right way. They think they're running a legitimate business. And the fact is, they're actually hosting somebody.
It absolutely creates an unfair business environment for the people who want to do it the right way. And those responsible employers want to take care of their employees. And they want to help them make sure they have access to health care benefits and retirement plans and give them a high quality of life for the work that they do. But then you have some who want to cheat and want to take advantage of people. And that's not fair for the people that do it right.
Enrique Cruz, our bilingual rep on staff, had been working up in Akron, and the kid, he had built a relationship with him and a few others that were undocumented on this specific job site. And the kid became ill, extremely ill. And the job broker basically told him, okay, you're not going to work. You stay here. You're going to be fine. Nothing's going to happen to you. Well, the kid had appendicitis. His appendix had ruptured. And he was so ill that the only person he had to call was Enrique Cruz. And we ended up having Abe Bruner and Enrique going over, picking the kid up, taking him to the hospital. And the doctors they told Abe and Enrique that if it had been another 15, 20 minutes, the kid probably wouldn't have survived. Now that really bothers me. I mean, you're exploiting somebody's hopes and dreams of coming to a new place for a new life.
So unfortunately, these misclassified workers and trafficked workers, they don't realize until it's too late that they're being taken advantage of. The employers are shifting their employer burden onto the employee, and when they make them independent contractors, at the end of the day, it's more money in the contractor's pocket, and the tax burden is shifted onto the worker at the end of the year.
I was working to help line another man's pockets while my family suffered, and I didn't know it.
The business practice of tax fraud affects every person, every day, at some level.
If they're being misclassified, they're not paying taxes. They're not. And who makes up for that difference? You know, the working class people make up for that difference.
If you're a taxpayer and a citizen of this community, it is your issue, and you should care about it.
Any man or woman that's out there going to work as an employee, their taxes are obviously going up. You have to work within a budget at a local level, at a state level, at a federal level. And I don't think anybody likes paying taxes, but they're needed to build our bridges, our roads.
In many cases, these employers go without paying the taxes that are due to the local schools, things that fund our fire and police and other really important elements of our community.
That alone, just the tax revenue that's lost, if you look at how much documentation we've been able to find, I would say it's between all three states well into the billions that's lost between Indiana, Kentucky, and Ohio every year.
When you don't have that, when people don't do the right thing, it undermines that whole social contract, essentially, that the employers are going to do their part, that they're going to pay their taxes. And when you have cheaters out there who don't do those things, it really, it's not fair to the people who do it right.
At the end of the day, if everyone pays into the system at a fair share, then the system works.
So the question is, how do we fight tax fraud? We speak out through education, and we take action.